And welcome to Dear Jane. I am your host, Scott Baker. Thanks for joining us here today. This episode of Dear Jane brought to you by Cogency Strategic. Lots of abortion battles coming up on the ballot this fall. We have got to win these state battles as the other side tries to codify abortion into state constitutions. Cogency Strategic is of one mind. They have one track mind, winning these battles for life. If you are involved in any of these political battles, you need to check them out, cogencystrategic.com. Well, you talk about uphill battles. How about being a pro-life feminist? That'd be one. How about being a pro-life feminist in New York? That would be two. And I've got two brave souls here with me today, Michele Sterlace Accorsi, and of course, she is joined by Emily Cappello, who joins us here today. Wow, which one is harder, being a pro-life New Yorker or being a pro-life feminist?
I think both are equally as difficult, especially when you combine the two. So, in New York, it's difficult to be pro-life. Mainstream culture embraces the pro-choice, pro-abortion narrative. And then again, when you mix, the term feminism in with all of that, the pushback is, how could you be a feminist and be pro-life? And we have plenty of answers and, responses based on history and empirical data really for that. But it's difficult. And especially within like pro-life communities, like evangelical, for example, they tend to really shy away from the word feminism. And so always, again, having to really define, heading right back to the good old Webster's dictionary, which, simply says, feminism is all about equal opportunity, just opportunity, for both sexes, for men and women. It's nothing to do with sameness,
It's that
we embrace
saying,
it.
a man with what a man without a nation, or I don't know, I forget whatever the saying is, but I mean, do you ever run into problem? I would imagine you're sort of, in a way, outcasts in the feminist community, and how are you treated in the pro-life community?
I think it's interesting because we come at pro-life from a secular perspective and nonpartisan perspective, which the feminism really comes into play there. But I think when people hear pro-life feminists, first of all, they get confused, and then they get intrigued and they want to learn more. And so that's really an opportunity for us to say, like, being pro-life is being pro-woman. And talking about how the fact that abortion rights didn't become central to mainstream feminism until the late 1960s, when the sexual revolution converged with the feminist movement, and how pro-life feminism is rooted in the tradition of our feminist foremothers, and it highlights this vital role that women play in promoting peace and justice. Like Michele said, it's embracing the beauty in the differences between men and women, and the gifts we both have to society, which includes childbearing, which is the most beautiful gift that we do have, and we want to embrace it instead of try to take it away.
What you just said there, though, Emily, seems like you talked about the differences between men and women, and they're beautiful differences. They are beautiful differences. It doesn't seem like we're allowed to say that anymore, or acknowledge that anymore. It almost seems like it's taboo to say, yeah, you know what? Women can do amazing things that men can't do, and men can do some things that women can't do, and that's okay.
I think all the more reason, it's to raise our voices. I mean, it is at this point countercultural to recognize differences between men and women, but clearly only women can have the power to gestate human life. I mean, at the basis of the pro-life feminist argument is we have this incredible power to create life, and that doesn't give us the license to kill. So it's really important to recognize those biological differences between men and women. And when a society fails to do so, social institutions denigrate and degrade women. because we as women are mothers, and in order for us to embrace equal opportunity or to participate equally within civic society, we need affordable childcare, for example, at the workplace, at the colleges. So we, by not embracing and recognizing those differences, it hurts women and it hurts parents.
Yeah. How do
Yeah, and
you
this
answer
is
your?
this.
I'm sorry, Emily. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say this push for abortion, just making abortion so accessible and really just like a right, is like Erica Bakioki says, it's elevating the male body, the male woundless body as normative. And that's like the only way, that's the right way, because you need abortion. And so it's kind of coming at it from a different angle, like, no, you can be a mother and you can achieve.
But see, that's the opposite. We hear the opposite from, I guess I'll say, your sister feminists who say abortion is empowering women, right? I mean, to empower women, they need abortion in their tool chest to have freedom to live their lives. I mean, you guys are saying the exact opposite, aren't you?
Yes, and we're paying close attention to rehumanizing the unborn child. I mean, there's clear scientific consensus that shows human beings begin their existence, at the moment of conception. So pregnancy involves, according to science, two separate, distinct human beings. And I mean, really, the argument is that you do not have to kill your offspring in order to be equal, to more clearly speak to your point. But it's easier said than done, because the greatest driver of abortion is poverty, according to all the studies. So for a woman facing an unplanned pregnancy without adequate resources and without a support system, it's difficult. And so, that abortion narrative, hits close to home. If I'm a poor woman or a lower working class woman without, adequate resources to bring a child and to raise a child. And I, at the same time, I want to complete my law degree, for example. It becomes, extraordinarily difficult. And I think it really presses upon the pro-life feminists our need to continue, helping vulnerable and marginalized women facing unplanned pregnancy.
We're not saying abortion is, or we're not saying that pregnancy and childbirth is easy. We're acknowledging that it's hard, but that it's worth it, and that there needs to be so much work done, especially in New York, to support women to have their children instead of continuing to expand abortion access.
But that abortion
Also, to
paradigm that says you have to undergo an abortion in order to achieve, that's
yeah,
sad. It's
yeah,
barbaric. And
yeah.
so what
That's
can we do, to make
yeah.
things so that I don't have to kill my children in order to graduate from college or make partner at a law firm? What do we need to do? What do we need to change within our society so that I can bear my child, raise my child, and still excel in my profession?
So to that end, would you argue that lawmakers it would be better use of their time to focus on social safety net programs to address those circumstances that you're talking about than maybe abortion law, or is that not what you're arguing? What is it better for them to address the symptoms? Is that how we fix it as a society?
I absolutely think that it's both. There needs to be a comprehensive approach, like with most difficult issues and social ills. It's not a one size fits all, and you need a comprehensive approach. So we need laws that protect unborn children. Unborn children are people too. These are human beings that, hold the most basic human right, which is the right to live free from violent destruction. The law is a teacher. So we support bans, against abortion. We support protecting unborn children. But at the same time, we need to work very diligently for what you refer to as social safety nets, institutions that help vulnerable women serve as, be parents and also have that opportunity, to excel. And I'm talking about expanded child tax credits, paid parental leave, flexible work hours. Again, we talked a little bit about affordable childcare and even prenatal child support laws. So we believe there needs to be a comprehensive approach.
So back to one of the core arguments that we often hear from, I guess I'll say more traditional feminists, if that's okay. I don't. I'm not. I'm still not sure what to make of you guys. I got to be honest. This is refreshing, but so what the argument I've heard that I don't fully understand is that abortion is a tool of the patriarchy. I've heard that
Mm.
before, and I've tried to figure that out. What's obviously you disagree with that. Why?
I mean, again, it really denies and degrades women, right? The feminine body, who we are as feminine women. And so when you have, a narrative, again, that says you must behave like a stereotypical man, right? Which is detached from pregnancy and even parenting. Um, that's patriarchal, right? So that is oppressive to me as a woman because I have a womb and I'm embracing and recognizing my biology. Again, I have the power to gestate human life. And so that needs to be recognized. And if you're telling me that I have to deny my womanhood, you're telling me that I have to destroy my unborn child in order for me to compete, right, equally within civil institutions. That's degrading and dehumanizing to me as a woman. That's a tool of the patriarchy. It's a way to exploit women.
So what
Does that
is
make sense?
whole? Yeah, it does. And maybe this will help me understand better. I noticed the term you guys use the term whole life feminism. What is that?
Yeah, it's pro-life for the whole life, feminist for the whole life. Is that, I mean, I just like to say that half of the children in utero are women, and so if you're like a pro-life, you're a half a feminist already. Um, but we just go back to our feminist foremothers who were pro-life and they spoke out against abortion, the violence of abortion. And it's the very women who began the feminist movement in the U.S. and spoke out for women to vote. And they spoke out also against seeing people as property and didn't support abortion as a means for equality. So we're following in their footsteps and promoting this pro-woman, pro-life narrative that you don't need abortion to succeed.
And I think whole life feminism is an aspect of the consistent life ethic, which we educate on, embrace, and promote, which is the recognition of the inherent dignity and value of every human being, of all members of the human family, from conception to natural death. So we're interested in really promoting life at every stage of development, whether in utero, infancy, childhood, teenagehood, young adulthood, all the way through to old age. Life does not begin or end at birth. Right? So as
Mm.
whole life feminists, we're interested in promoting life and life affirming peaceful solutions for all people at every stage of development.
And it really goes for everybody. Like it doesn't matter your circumstances. So if you're like your level of dependency, whether you're born, whether you're unborn, whether you're guilty, so going into things like capital punishment, like everybody is worthy of the same life no matter what.
We're to believe polling, things, data, that sort of thing. Then we're to believe that most men are pro-life and most women are pro-choice. Do you believe that in your heart of hearts that most women are pro-choice?
I don't. Absolutely not. I mean, I think that women want autonomy, 1,000%. We're people too, right? There's only one race, it's the human race. And we want opportunity. I don't want somebody to tell me, that I have to, stay home and, sew and knit and then make dinner, do all the laundry and have 5 children. I don't want somebody to tell me what to do, right? And I really feel like I am pro-choice in the sense that I want to be able to make every choice that my male counterpart can make. If I want to be a neurosurgeon, if I want to be an actress, all about choice, 1,000,000,000%. But we stop where we say no one should have the choice or the power to destroy another human being, whether they're in utero or on death row. Scott, that's also the consistent life ethic, right? So, the value of our lives is not determined by another person's perception of who we are. Well, gee, you're in utero. You're only 1 month gestation. You're too little, to deserve of what we consider, which is the most basic human right, the right to live free from violent destruction. Or you sitting on death row, you committed this heinous crime, so you just lost your right to life and we get to execute you, right? So there's where that consistent life also comes into play.
It's always blown my mind how somehow, to me, the message of a strong woman is saying, yes, you can have a child and you can still succeed in a career because you are a strong woman. But that's not what we hear from are the loudest females. Let's just put it that way. They're saying the exact opposite. No, you don't have the capacity to do all of the above. I mean, I don't understand. Well, there's a lot of things I don't understand, but I don't understand why they are the females that have the loudest voice, and why they're the leaders of the feminist community.
But Scott, you
What do
answered the
you?
question. I just wanted to say that you answered the question about how abortion is a tool of the patriarchy, because it's telling me that, I cannot achieve, again, without, having to destroy my unborn child, that I'm too weak, that I
Yeah.
cannot be both a parent and an excellent attorney. I myself I'm an attorney with an advanced law degree. I went to law school with 3 little children and then was pregnant with my 4th child. So I went to law school with 4 little ones. It's not easy, but yes, women can do this. But we need support. Why, to answer your question, is the other side, so voluminous, if that's the word. I think there's a better way to say
So
it.
loud.
The abortion industry is an industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industrial
True.
complex. They have
Yeah.
a hyper-financed, comprehensive marketing campaign that bombards everyone with their misleading, lying narrative. Abortion is healthcare. You need full abortion access in order to, achieve. I mean, this is financed, by the abortion industry.
Yeah, that's true. So how do you keep the faith in a state like New York? I mean, you guess your guys are in competition with California to see who can be the bluest. But I mean, what keeps you going? What do you try to work on that you can accomplish?
I mean, yeah, you're right. It's pretty sad. New York's abortion rate is double the national average. We have over 250 abortion providing facilities within our borders, which is more than nearly every state. But we have to do something. And so I think one of my favorite things to do is, well, we promote dialogue and try to find common ground. But when it comes to like legislation, we're like, hey, what about these other laws that are really great that we should pass? Like a doula directory, a diaper allowance for poor families, different bills that are helpful instead of just promoting abortion expansion. And so we release like a bill packet every year, FCLNY does, promoting these bills that are for the well-being of children and families that we want our legislators to pass and we want to see support for, that don't include abortion.
And
There
at
are
the
pro-life
same,
allies in your legislature, aren't there? I mean, there are at least some pro-life people elected.
yes, of course, absolutely.
Okay.
And I think that what's most important, Scott, that we do is really counter the narrative. We have a media outreach campaign. We're reaching millions of people on the radio and really in newspaper with published essays. And there we highlight information that you don't often hear. And that is, studies show abortion negatively impacts women. It increases the rates of anxiety, depression, and suicide, for example. So there's a lot of information that we're putting out there for folks to hear. Right? We're growing, but we need more organizations like ourselves, really, in New York and across the country. We don't want to give up, Scott, right? And so, we do the very best we can to make an impact through 7 bold initiatives Emily can talk further about. But I think it's important to get empirical information out there that counters the pro-abortion narrative.
Yeah, and
All
really
right,
what we're doing
what
is
are those
we're
bold
educating.
initiatives?
Yeah, I'll let you know. It's kind of on like a personal level, like locally, but then also statewide that goes to the nations as well. So we engage in community encounters. So we participate in human rights events. We'll do protests, counter protests, marches, rallies, things like that, speaking. We'll do scholarly events, which are my personal favorite. We'll do panel discussions, hosting, moderating symposiums. We have like a book and film club where we come together, talk about pro-life feminist literature, and even small dialogue circles called salons, or groups of like 5 to 7 to come together and just talk about contentious hot button issues. But then we'll do bigger scale seminars and webinars. But the goal is really to find common ground between people who might disagree on certain issues. And then we'll have things like film involvement. We are host pre-screenings, viewings, and producing videos and commentaries. Media outreach, as Michele talked about, in the newspaper, on the radio, just being that pro-life feminist voice. When they say the objective side, we are the other side that makes it objective, that shows the pro-life side. And we also do grassroots campaigns. So we do public forum canvassing. We do petitions, sign drives. We do billboards and radio ads and commentary there as well. And projects that empower, we have resource indexes, a bread and bed resource index, sex trafficking and domestic violence hotline poster project that we put up in places that abortion victims frequent. A sizable percentage of women are coerced to their abortion, and so we go and we give them the resource to get out of that difficult situation. As well as a peer support group. We have one of those. And lastly, but not least, is legislative advocacy, organizing and participating in both direct and grassroots lobbying on targeted policy issues, as well as coordinated media outreach in order to try to influence New York's legislation.
Said something interesting there that I picked up on. You're the second person we've talked to here recently that says when you're talking to people about the issue, especially people who may not agree, you try to immediately, the first place you go is you try to find common ground. And I think that makes so much sense. Because my mind, you think, well, that's not even possible. But I'm hearing you say and others say, well, actually it is. What's your experience with that? I mean, usually, how do you get to that point? Help me out on how you find common ground with people.
The scholarly symposium will bring like leading feminist scholars. I'm referring to An Unsafe Space or Reframing Agency. These are 2 symposiums on contemporary feminism that have dealt with a variety of issues, really centered around the abortion topic. But you bring together divergent scholars, Scott, right? So pro-life and pro-choice, and speaking about really an issue. And when you begin to like have a conversation, from with on a contentious topic, from divergent perspectives. It's sort of like cream, how it comes to the top. We had a cow. I lived in Arkansas on a farm, and we milked our cow, and the milk would sit there, and then the cream, you could just see it at the top, right? So I think the common areas of interest, they become quite visual and relevant once you have conversation. I think the difficult part is, like, let me just peel it back for one split second, and that is this is very common, sort of an easy thing to discuss. When you're talking about abortion, everybody agrees and acknowledges that poverty is a primary driver of most abortion. Not all abortion, of course, but most abortion. Whether you're a feminist or not a feminist, I don't know what caring person, with compassion wants to do something to alleviate poverty, right? We also, understand that poverty not only drives abortion, it drives as a primary driver of most forms of violence in this country and our state, of course, and in the world. We do quite a bit about, on violent military action, armed conflict, what causes that violence. Poverty is huge, right? All right. So we all can agree that, we want to alleviate poverty. Obviously there's a lot involved with, like, how can you alleviate poverty, right? That's a pretty darn interesting. But that's a really relevant discussion. What are the best ways to alleviate poverty? Do we just give people more welfare? Do we give people job opportunities? All that. But I just want to say that I've been executive director of Feminists Choosing Life of New York for 6 years. And so we've had, lots of, time to be able to have these conversations and discussions. And I think that my experience is that if you're pro-life and you're interested in protecting unborn children, it's almost like the other side, our brothers and sisters that are pro-abortion or pro-choice, they don't necessarily want to work together with pro-life people, right?
Right.
So they want to, so it's very we've always been, and there's some opportunity, but they're really few and far between. Our experience, no matter how kind and respectful and honest and genuine we are, there seems to be hostility from the other side, of folks that are pro-choice, that embrace abortion. They want to dismiss anyone that's pro-life. You could have 5 law degrees from Yale. You could, it doesn't matter how smart and accomplished you are, right? If you're against abortion, you're, really marginalized, and especially in many academic institutions, so it's difficult, Scott. It's very difficult. But
and that's why I kind of bring it up. That's why, it just seems like, especially on an issue as contentious as this, the art of agreeing on anything, any common ground, is a lost art. And so that's why it just intrigues me so much. I can understand why it makes sense to have that as your goal. So let's start with that. But it's almost like it's not allowed anymore. People are just too stubborn, too set in their ways to even consider that as an option.
Yeah, it's like a toxic relationship. You need both people willing to work on that relationship. So you really do need both parties to be just genuinely interested and in addressing those common areas of interest. I just want to say one quick thing, Scott, and that is we continue to want to highlight common areas of interest so that we can practically address those together with all of our brothers and sisters. But I think what we've done is, I don't want to say pivot, but we've sort of embellished or expanded the goal to, let's really have this conversation, not only to identify common areas of interest and find practical ways that we can work together, but let's highlight the differences between our opinions. And I like that because it really allows for the juxtaposition, and like between, the pro-life, pro-choice, for example, Scott, to use that particular issue. So it's a great way to really highlight, the differences in the position on an issue.
Highlight highlight the differences in our position?
Yes. Yeah, because we tend to think, like pro-choice, for example. I mean, we don't want to fall into the same trap that they do, like oftentimes stereotypically painting us pro-life people with one broad brush, right? So, there's many within the pro-choice community, Scott, that only support abortion during the first trimester, for example, and they support restriction on second and third trimester abortion. So there's many folks within the pro-choice community agree that parents should be notified if a minor wants to obtain an abortion. So this is a way to say, wow, even within our different perspectives, there's common areas. And so there's so much beauty and productivity that is involved with an excellent conversation,
And I think bringing people together is so important to do that. Like our salons that we have, the informal dialogues, you'll find people who are agreeing or disagreeing even on different aspects of the consistent life ethic. So somebody who they both oppose abortion, but maybe somebody who isn't sure how they feel about the death penalty. And so coming together and speaking about that can be very productive.
I wish you the best. And now I'm going to sound like a cranky old man. I look at these youngins these days. They're more interested in shouting down and getting into shouting matches than having a meaningful give and take in a conversation. And I know that's a broad brush. I understand that, and I should be careful. But I'm thrilled to death to hear that there's still some meaningful, deep conversation and listening. That's the thing that is missing in a lot of this, is just listening and listening for the purpose of understanding. It sounds like that's still going on, and that's so important, especially in a conversation dealing with something like this.
Definitely. And I think the most important thing you can do is share your story. I think that is so impactful on people when it comes to things like violence and the root causes of violence. It's just sharing your story. And I was able to share an op-ed in multiple outlets across New York about the life of my own grandmother, who she was dying of Alzheimer's for a couple years, and it was very sad to watch, but it was so beautiful to see my parents and their siblings come together to care for her and to love her in the ways that she loved them when they were growing up. And I was just articulating that a natural death is something that is beautiful and it is a gift. And euthanasia, assisted suicide, and the way it's growing in our nation and our world is degrading. It's telling our beautiful elders and parents and grandparents that they're a burden and they're no longer needed, and so that we can dispose of them. And so in sharing a story, it's much more impactful to be able to reach people's hearts.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the very best. I don't envy you living in New York. I mean, that is like I started with. That is an uphill battle, but I'm glad that someone's doing it. The truth has to be told. So, you guys' website, fclny.org. Michele Sterlace, Accorsi, and Emily Cappello, thank you very much for joining me here today on Dear Jane.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Dear Jane. Let's make sure this pro-life podcast gets to as many people as possible. Hit that subscribe button. You can hear Dear Jane every week on your podcast platform of choice, and you can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook. I'm your host, Scott Baker. For our producer, Kate Ewell, and our editor, Jacob McCormick, thank you for listening to Dear Jane.